Airheads is a 1994 release comedy directed by Michael Lehman.
Stars Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi and Adam Sandler as a band desperate for a record deal. Brendan Fraser plays Chaz, who at the start of the film he sneaks his way into a record label office, tries to hand his demo over, but they won't take it, they're not interested. Which surprises me, to be honest, because in 1994 record labels were snapping out basically any guitar band going, weren't they? So I don't know why it was that hard for them to get signed. But anyway, for the purposes of the film, it's very difficult for them. They come up with a plan where they're going to go to the local rock radio station and ask them to play their demo. And Rex, played by Steve Buscemi, works in a toy store and he steals lots of toys. So lying around his apartment he has some toy guns which were taken off sale because they look too realistic. So they decide to take a couple of those along, just in case they say no to their request. And they fill them with hot sauce so they can squirt them in their eyes if they refuse. So they head over to the radio station and confront Ian the Shark, who's played by Joe Mantegna, and try and get him to play their demo. And in the middle of that, Michael McKean's character Milo, who's the station manager, comes in because he doesn't know, he's listening to what's going on. And he's like, this is not the normal programming. What's going on? Yeah, he gets a bit uppity, so they get their plastic guns out and threaten them. And of course, they think they're real, so then a hostage situation begins, and hilarity ensues.
Yeah, so this is our first in our theme of metal rock based films. Nothing like Sound of Metal that we reviewed previously, but what the hell? There's not many out there, so we thought we'd give some love to Airheads because this is a film that I loved. This film when I was younger. it was kind of it for me because when I was a 16-year-old music fan. Up until this point, I'd had Wayne's World, which is great. Wayne's World is a great film, but that was more like Aerosmith and Queen, which I'm not a fan of at all. So, no, I had to get my kicks elsewhere, and Airheads delivered. It delivered perfectly. I mean, yes, it's silly, it's a bit cliche, it's a bit kind of OTT, but it's great fun. It's sending up, for a start, it's sending up films like Die Hard.
Well, it does actually take place at Fox Plaza.
It does, yeah.
Which I hadn't noticed before. I was like, is that Fox Plaza?
Yeah, exactly. So, and then obviously with the great, people, there's a guy in there, he's like going through the air ducts of the building. And then you've got the police turn up, and then the kind of the FBI type squad or the armed unit turn up, and they're like trying to get involved as well. So it's a complete nod to the films like Die Hard and those kind of hostage situation films. I suppose predominantly Die Hard is the one that it's kind of sending up, but then it kind of gives it this kind of metal flavour with these kids in a band trying to get their stuff heard on radio. And again, it's kind of like kind of how I mentioned in Sound of Metal, it was recognisable to me, in the band's van, there's loads of stickers all over the sides of the van, and there are posters adorning the walls of the whiskey club that they go to, and inside the walls of the radio station, and they're stickers and posters of bands I recognised. So it was like, but they were cool bands. It wasn't just like, a few most famous ones. There were things like Obituary on the wall, and Deicide, and Megadeth, and Fetus. There was a poster for Fetus in the whiskey bar, and even KLF, the British band KLF, were on a poster inside the radio. So there was, for me, it was like, oh my god, they understand what I want to watch, what I want to see. And on top of that, it was funny, and it was lots of great recognisable faces. I mean, you've got two members of Ghostbusters in there, Ernie Hudson and Harold Ramis, and I'd kind of grown up with watching films like Ghostbusters, and I mean, they're an odd cast. It's looking at it now, you almost don't expect to see Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, and Adam Sandler in a film. And of course, I completely forgot when we did Punch Drunk Love. I completely forgot that Adam Sandler was in this. We didn't mention Airheads. I completely forgot about Airheads.
At the time, it was quite a sort of understated Adam Sandler performance. This period he was sort of making things like Happy Gilmore and stuff like that, where he just goes, his thing was going absolutely nuts, which was the thing in Punch Drunk Love as well.
Yeah.
But he's quite sort of understated in this for him, which made a nice change.
He does it perfectly well, and Steve
Yeah.
Buscemi is someone else that kind of, at that point, we kind of knew him for Tarantino films, and it's not, you didn't expect him to turn up in a film like this, but he has a lot of fun with it. I mean, he looks very much like Rex from Pantera. Rex Brown is the bass player in Pantera, and he plays a character and it's called Rex, who's the bass player, so it's clearly a nod to that.
I think he looks the most convincing as a member of a band. The other two, maybe not so much.
I don't know. I felt like they were all, Brendan Fraser with his long locks. He's very tall. He's quite muscular. And Adam Sandler, there's always one in a band with a shaved head.
True.
So I think to me personally, I found them all very convincing as band members, and it felt like it's definitely of the time. It's definitely a '90s film, but again we've mentioned this before. If you're into that music coming out and living in Britain, there was nothing for you over here. We didn't get it on TV, we didn't get it on the radio. We didn't get it in films. Most of the films that came out of this country at that point were dealing with either, it was indie music or the rave scene. Of course, over here, the rave scene was much bigger for us as youths, as young people, than in America, where I think heavy metal and rock music was, a lot more younger people out there listening to that kind of music, and hip hop as well. Over here, I didn't have that over here in culture. You had to go to America to get that in your culture, I think. So this film served that for me, basically. And Beavis and Butthead are in there as well. I mean,
yeah, they are.
Tiny moment with Beavis and Butthead, and it's just a lot of fun. And it's got a great soundtrack as well. It's got cool songs on the soundtrack.
White Zombie are in there playing live.
White Zombie, yep, they're playing Inside the Whiskey, which is really cool.
Lemmy
as well.
shows up.
Lemmy shows up. Lemmy is God. Great line that. It's just I think if you were a fan of the music, then you probably were a fan of this film, because it got who you were and it got you, and it was just a joy to watch. It's got some great memorable lines. It's very quotable. Did you see this when it came out? Do you know it from that period?
I can't remember when I first saw it. I mean, I did. I hadn't watched it for years, so I didn't remember a great deal of it. I don't think I watched it as much as you.
No, I watched it.
I can't remember when I first saw it.
I had it on VHS and I watched it a lot back then, and I was always kind of, I'd seen quite a few Brendan Fraser films as well. I quite liked him. He's not someone you see so much nowadays. He was in another film around this time called School Ties, which I really liked, and in fact Amy Lockhane, who plays his girlfriend in this, plays his girlfriend in that as well.
Oh, right.
So I was kind of familiar of Brendan Fraser around that time, and I watched it a lot. I was going to say I hadn't actually seen it for a few years, so I came back to it again. But I still, I remembered everything. It's, it's something when you're that familiar with something, it doesn't go away. It's like riding a bike, isn't it?
No, it wasn't. I didn't. Obviously knew the plot and who was in it and everything. Although some, like Harold Ramis, I forgot about him turning up in it. So no, a lot. It's so long since I've seen it that a lot of it, I've completely forgotten about. But I think the cast, is one of its strengths.
Yeah.
It's got a really interesting cast. You've got Judd Nelson in there as like an A&R guy. Chris Farley as well as a cop. Again, a bit like Adam Sandler. He's known for, he was known for sort of really over the top performances. And in this, there's hints of that, but again, it's quite understated for a Chris Farley performance, which makes it a little bit different. And then you've got people like Reggie Cathy, who was in The Wire, and David Arquette, quite a small role for him, but as just some sort of stoner surfer dude who works at the radio station. So a really interesting cast. And Michael Richards, of course, who was probably most famous for playing Kramer on Seinfeld. He's the one who's crawling around the air vents. Basically, he's an accountant at the radio station, and he's having a meeting with Milo at the start. And when he hears the shouting in the arguments and then sees them brandishing weapons, he runs off and hides. And there's some funny stuff with him sort of crawling around on the floor and all sorts of stuff, and hanging out of the ceiling. It's possible, you could completely jettison his character and plot, and it wouldn't really make any difference. To be honest, doesn't really add much to the plot.
No, he's there for kind of one purpose, which becomes known later on in the plot, and that's the introduction of a real gun. I suppose that's the only reason he's there. It's quite, yeah, it's kind of, it's like one of those. I mean, I think a lot of these films, the structure, not its plot, but its structure follows the same as a lot of these kind of films that came out around that time. I mean, if you look at another Brendan Fraser film, Encino Man or California Man, I think it was known over here, with Sean Astin, and I don't know, God, other. I mean, there were lots of these kind of quirky comedies that came. I mean, Wayne's World as well. I mean, they were very familiar, but then occasionally they would maybe put silly things in which didn't always work and were a little bit silly, trying to be funny when they weren't really that funny. I think it's something that British comedies suffered from as well. We'd sometimes put silly characters in thinking they were funny, but they just became annoying. And he's kind of that character in this film. He could, yeah, you're right. He didn't have to be there necessarily.
No, I mean, it's funny, and obviously Michael Richards is great at physical comedy, so it works, but it's not really necessary. Well, it feels a little bit tacked on maybe, but it's still fun all the same.
It did come with a very painful moment though, and it always made me go, oh, that's gotta hurt. When he falls out, he comes out the air duct, and he's trying to get a phone on the desk, and he can't, and he just falls out, and you're like, wow, that was quite a stunt, because he smacks his head on the desk, and it's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's definitely of its time. I mean, definitely of its time. I mean, even with the whole, when they run out and they started shouting Rodney King, Rodney King. I mean, obviously that was a few years after that happened. But it feels of its time. But I think it's clearly, it's obviously saying stuff about, corporate capitalistic kind of big record labels and trying to stay independent. And yeah, I think it's a really interesting film, and one that's possibly been missed over the years. It's not quite as known as it was back in those days. No. I don't know how successful it was. I don't ever remember if it came out in the cinema here.
I don't think it didn't bomb. I don't think it did amazingly, but I mean, yeah, I'm sure it was released in the cinemas in the UK. I'm pretty sure it was. I can't remember that far back. It's too long ago, but I'm pretty sure it was. It wasn't straight to video or anything, I don't think. Because at the time, Brendan Fraser and Steve Buscemi and Adam Sandler, they're all quite big names.
It came out in '94, which, for me, so many great albums came out in that year. It was a really good year for heavy metal, at least. It's a kind of a form of music I don't listen to as much anymore, but it's got a place in my heart. Back in the '90s,
it was also in the time where soundtrack albums were a big deal. There was even a song made for the film with Motorhead, Ice-T, and Whitfield Crane of Ugly Kid Joe.
It's got Anthrax on the soundtrack, and The House of Pain are on there, and White Zombie, Candlebox are on there. The Replacements. It's got a really good soundtrack. In it, one of the songs they play in the film, Degenerated, was actually originally by a punk band called Reagan Youth, although they're kind of covering that song as if it's their own song. I think that original version is on the soundtrack as well. So yeah, it's it comes out along with films like The Crow and Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, and Mortal Kombat. A lot of those films kind of had these very heavy metallic soundtracks going on in the mid to late 90s. Good time for music, good time for that kind of stuff.
I mean, we haven't even mentioned the name of the band in the film, which obviously is a sort of running joke as well. They're called the Lone Rangers, which of course, you can't pluralise the Lone Ranger because he's lone. And Joe Mantegna points this out to them, and they're like, "Don't understand what you're talking about."
Yeah, Adam Sandler's like, "You have no idea what you're saying right now."
So that's
great funny moment.
So it does have generally does some sort of laugh out loud moments in it for sure. Yeah, no, it's just a lot of fun. I mean, if you think too hard, I mean they've got zero. I mean, obviously the title of the film Airheads, sort of plays on them being idiots, which I think Adam Sandler's character is that's sort of his thing. The other two, particularly Steve Buscemi, he's they're brothers, those two characters, and he's constantly telling him he's an idiot, but he doesn't seem that stupid. But so none of them are that stupid. But they go to the radio station with absolutely zero plan, really, and they come up with this. Oh, let's go to the radio station and let's take some fake guns, and that's it. It's like 1 minute of screen time. They're making this plan, and then they're on the way. It's like, oh, okay, no planning involved. Just off you go. But it's a comedy, so there's not they're not going to spend half an hour on a plan, are they?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they can play their instruments quite well, and they've written some quite decent music, so they're not that stupid. So
well, no, exactly.
So anyway, this isn't on Amazon, but you have it on DVD. I'm amazed
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't have it on DVD. So I had it on VHS long time ago, but do you have it? You have it on DVD?
Yeah, I got the US version years ago. I don't know why. Well, I mean, this seems to be the only
I
edition
have
that's got
got
any.
I have got that on DVD. Why
You
haven't
have
I
got
got that
them.
on DVD? Where is that? I definitely had. I definitely got that. I don't know where it's gone though. I'll have to. I mean, as you may have noticed, I've actually changed. I've moved. I've moved into a new place. I must have been lost in transit. Isn't that a film? Isn't that the name of a film? Oh, it's Lost in Translation.
Yeah. The US version appears to be the only one that has any extras on it. So it's got some music videos. So it's got the Motorhead, Ice-T and Whitfield Crane song on there, the music video for that. And it's got the White Zombie Feed the Gods music video as well. And it's also got, what was it called? It just calls it featurette there, but it's basically like a sort of phony news report, as you know, they're reporting on it as if it's actually happening. And then there's it's kind of, they talk about the director and how he's filming a film while this thing's going on. I don't know, it's all a bit weird, but so there is sort of a little bit of behind the scenes stuff, but it's not. I mean, obviously, with something that was made, you know, for TV to promote the film, so it's not particularly in depth, unfortunately. But that's, you know, that's your lot, to be honest, apart from trailers. But yeah, that seems to be the only release that has anything on it. All the others are you know, bare bones. There was a Blu-ray in the US as well. Again, that loses the features, although that seems to be out of print, so quite hard to get hold of. I think the easiest Blu-ray to get is the Spanish one. If you can find that, it does have English audio on it, so it will work. I don't know if it's stream. I couldn't find it streaming anywhere. Not on the streaming services that I have anyway. So it is kind of, you know, a little bit forgotten about, to be honest, which is one of the reasons we're doing it. But yeah, definitely, you know, if you like that sort of music and you like comedies and 90s films, then definitely worth checking it out.
So that was Airheads, and as always, if you enjoyed the video, let us know in the comments below.
Hit the subscribe button there and don't forget to push the bell for notifications. There's other videos to check out over here. Come and find us on various social media platforms and join us again next week for another video.